The day before the college entrance exam, I saw that Zhang Chen was planning to go to Shenzhen to start a business with a woman he had only known for a month. I contacted his parents immediately. He was forcibly brought back, took the exam, and later, we both got into Peking University. After graduation, we got married. I thought happiness would follow, but instead, I walked straight into hell. I endured his torment every day, which cost me our child. And it went on until I attempted to take my own life. In his final moments, he said, "Let me go to hell and atone to that woman." When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. On the very night before the college entrance exam, 1, Zhang Chen, I've made up my mind. I plan to leave first thing tomorrow morning. Let's go to Shenzhen and start a business together. What do you think? Alright. I'll meet you at the station first thing tomorrow morning. Don't be late. Reborn on the eve of the college entrance exam, I once again saw these two messages on Zhang Chen's phone. I even suspect that Zhang Chen deliberately let me see those two texts. Tomorrow is the day of the exam, and this time, I chose to pretend I never saw them. That's right, I've been reborn. Reborn on the eve of the college entrance exam. It's the same scene as my past life, and I saw this text message just as unexpectedly. The only difference is, this time I won't foolishly share this news with his parents. They dragged him back from the train station and forced him to take the college entrance exam. In the end, he and I were admitted to the same university, Peking University, nor would it have led to him, nursing a grudge after graduation, proposing to me out of spite. I, foolishly thinking I could win him over despite knowing he loved Su Yan, accepted. That was the moment I stepped into hell. He began his revenge. Convinced that I had ruined his relationship with Su Yan, this ultimately led to Su Yan encountering criminals in Shenzhen, who robbed and murdered her. He was violent towards me from time to time. After I became pregnant, he used the name of love to torment me in every way possible, making even my family believe it was justified, but I suffered severe psychological trauma and developed major depression. My 5-month pregnancy ended in a miscarriage due to chronic sleep deprivation, malnutrition, and mental breakdown. I lost the will to live. After I attempted suicide, as I lay dying, he told me it was all revenge for Su Yan. I deserved to go to hell and atone to her. Let me die consumed by resentment. So this time, I'll step aside for you. This time, run away together and be happy. I won't tell his parents anymore. I won't stand in your way anymore. Please, just stay together and stop dragging innocent people into this mess. 2. The college entrance exam arrived as scheduled, and I threw myself into the tests with full focus. After answering the final question, I let out a long sigh of relief. Looking up at the sky, I imagined my future university life, my heart filled with boundless hope. Sweetie, it's over. The exams are finally over. I had just stepped out of the exam hall when I saw Zhang Chen's parents rushing towards me, their faces etched with worry. Uncle, Auntie, what's wrong, sweetie? Zhang Chen is missing. He's gone. Have you seen him anywhere? Zhang Chen's mother was so frantic she could barely speak coherently. She grabbed my hand, tears streaming down her face. Zhang Chen's father said anxiously, Nan, you're the closest to him. Did he mention where he was going? We've looked everywhere and can't reach him on his phone. We're worried sick. Seeing their anxious faces, I was torn inside. If I just told them that Zhang Chen had run off with someone, they could find him. But in my past life, out of kindness, I saved Zhang Chen, and he ended up resenting me for it. This time around, I've decided to let him be. I won't meddle in his affairs. He can go wherever he pleases. Whether he thrives or falters is entirely up to his own fate. I fought back the guilt and didn't tell them. They were truly good to me, but I chose my own life. Uncle, Auntie, I don't know. I haven't seen him since the exams started. Seeing me shake my head, Zhang Chen's parents were crestfallen, with no other options left. They reluctantly called the police for help. Watching their anxious expressions, I felt a pang of sympathy in my heart. I looked up at Zhang Chen's mother. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she looked utterly exhausted, clearly having gone without rest for a long time. I took out my phone and sent a message to Zhang Chen. Your parents are going out of their minds looking for you. Your mother's health isn't good. I'm afraid she can't take much more of this. Soon, Zhang Chen replied to my message. I'm out here trying to make my fortune. Once I've earned enough money, I'll go back and take care of them properly. Reading Zhang Chen's reply, I was utterly dumbfounded. In my past life, he tortured me to death, all for that woman. I thought he wouldn't be so heartless toward his own mother. I can't believe a girl he's only known for a few months could matter more to him than his own parents' well-being. For that girl, he abandoned his parents, his future, everything. Remembering the cruel things he said to me for her sake, the last shred of goodwill I had for him finally vanished. 3. After the exams, I received my acceptance letter from Peking University. My dad was so overjoyed he tried to pick me up and spin me around, but he's not as young as he used to be and nearly threw his back out. My mom was grinning from ear to ear and immediately announced she was taking me on a trip to celebrate. Meanwhile, I heard the police had located Zhang Chen, his parents. Upon learning he had gone to Shenzhen, immediately set off to bring him back. For a month during the summer vacation, my family and I were traveling. It was a rare period of leisure for me. My parents are usually busy with their business, so having them with me for so long was a real treat. I had a wonderful time. After returning from our trip, I saw Zhang Chen and Su Yan. They were holding hands. Zhang Chen greeted me with a smile, while Su Yan kept her head down, looking bashful. Seeing their hands clasped tightly together, I couldn't help but feel a pang in my heart, but it was just a fleeting moment. I quickly composed myself and smiled at Zhang Chen. Long time no see. Congratulations on finding true love. Zhang Chen's grip on Su Yan's hand faltered for a second. He looked up at me and offered a strained smile. Thank you, and congratulations to you on getting into Peking University. I could tell his smile was forced. Not long after, I received the school's military training notice, telling us to prepare in advance. I heard that Zhang Chen also decided to repeat the school year. He will retake the college entrance exam next year. He's a top student who always had excellent grades. Getting into a good university should have been a walk in the park for him. Since I got into Peking University, my parents decided to invite all the neighbors over for a meal to celebrate. Our family is on very good terms with all the neighbors. They're like elders who've watched me grow up. The dinner was set for the evening, and Zhang Chen came with Su Yan. Looking at them, I couldn't help but reminisce about the past. Zhang Chen has been a top student since childhood. His intellect far surpasses mine. He grasps difficult problems instantly, while it takes me much longer to figure them out. It was also thanks to his help that my academic performance became so outstanding. Ever since we were young, whenever I achieved good exam results, he would always be the first to reward me. Under his gentle guidance and encouragement, I had long since planted the seed of affection in my heart. It's just a shame that, in my past life, he was the one who personally crushed that budding love. Xiaobei, congratulations, Su Yan, and I will work hard too, and get into Peking University next year. Zhang Chen, with Su Yan by his side, stood before me, pulling me out of my reverie. I looked at them, gave a slight, wry smile, and said softly, "Thank you, I wish you success as well." At the banquet, Zhang Chen's parents wore strained smiles and would occasionally steal glances at me. Perhaps they knew there was no future for their son and me, or perhaps they were too ashamed to make any more jokes. After the meal, us younger folks and the women all headed home, leaving my dad and a group of uncles and elders from the neighborhood, the men, to continue drinking. The next day, Dad got up, sat at the dining table, and over breakfast, started talking about what happened after last night's banquet. The Zhang family has had the worst luck imaginable. Zhang Chen took out a loan of over 500,000 yuan to do business in Shenzhen, only to be scammed and lose everything. He almost didn't make it back home. The most infuriating part is that Zhang Chen, the one in debt, actually threatened his own parents. He said he wouldn't leave unless they also paid to get Su Yan back. That cost them another 300,000 plus yuan. Just like that, the life savings the old couple had worked their whole lives for were completely gone. My mother chimed in, that Su Yan is nothing but trouble. The Zhang family is truly cursed to have ended up with a woman like her. Zhang Chen was such a sensible and well-behaved boy when he was young. Who would have thought he'd fall for some wild girl with a shady background? To be honest, I used to think about having Zhang Chen as our son-in-law, but now, before Dad could finish, I cut him off. Dad, I'll bring home a truly good husband for you one day. Hearing my words, a relieved and gratified smile spread across my father's face. He patted my shoulder and said, "That's my girl, I believe in you. Our little Bei is sure to find someone truly worthy of spending her life with." The next day, my parents saw me off at the bus station, as the school had already sent out the military training notice. As soon as we stepped out, we saw Zhang Chen's parents, who were also there to send him off to his college entrance exam retake class. Their faces held a trace of awkwardness and helplessness, yet they managed to maintain a smile. "Take care on your journey, Xiaobei." Zhang Chen's mother waved to me. "Thank you, Auntie, please take good care of yourselves too." I waved back. Zhang Chen's parents looked at me with undisguised envy. Peking University is the dream school for countless families. They used to joke all the time that I was their child bride. and they truly treated me very well. Ever since Su Yan moved in, that household hasn't known a single day of peace. You can hear them arguing every day, and they hardly ever chat with the neighbors anymore. They're probably too ashamed to show their faces. Watching Zhang Chen and Su Yan walk hand in hand to their tutoring class, we got in our car and headed for the airport. In the car, Dad finally vented, bringing that woman along to study. What a joke. He's probably just going to spend all day. Mom gave Dad a light smack on the shoulder. Watch your language in front of our daughter. 5. My days at school were incredibly fulfilling. I met many outstanding classmates. And everyone was working very hard. Before I knew it, more than half the semester had flown by. Every time my dad came to Beijing on business, he'd look me up. He'd say it was to treat me to a good meal. But really, he just wanted to gossip about Zhang Chen. He knew how I felt about Zhang Chen, so Dad would come and tell me all the latest unflattering stories about him, just to cheer me up. It's true what they say. No one knows a daughter like her father. My dad said it from the start. Bringing a girl along to study is just, well, a joke. Old Zhang saw his son's grades and came straight to me for a drink. In the first mock exam, Zhang Chen scored 587, while Su Yan didn't even break 200. They became the laughingstock of the whole school. I was shocked. Zhang Chen used to easily score around 700. With a bit of effort, he could hit 720, exactly. With grades like that, he's clearly been fooling around at school. I mean, slacking off. He's just coasting on his past performance. You wouldn't believe it. The moment the grades came out, old Zhang rushed to the school and gave Zhang Chen a beating. Zhang Chen's mother slapped Su Yan and called her a homewrecker right in public. Then, Su Yan turned around and hit her back. The whole thing blew up. Old Zhang threatened to disown his son and cut off his allowance. Dad leaned in and said in a hushed, mysterious tone, "Guess what happened next?" I shot him a glance. And after taking a sip of his drink, Dad said, after just a few days without money, Su Yan threatened to break up with Zhang Chen. Old Zhang was over the moon about it, but then Zhang Chen went straight to his father, old Zhang, and actually drank pesticide to force him into giving him an allowance. Old Zhang was frantic. Zhang Chen is his only son, after all, so he rushed him to the hospital. Turns out the kid was clever. He drank the mildest kind of pesticide. He's fine. But he gave old Zhang and the whole family a real scare. Even his grandfather showed up, gave old Zhang a beating, and after that, he had no choice but to give in. After that kid recovered, he took the money and went straight to Su Yan. Old Zhang was hopping mad. Sigh. In just 3 months, half of old Zhang's hair has turned white. He must have done something terrible in a past life to be saddled with such a good-for-nothing son. My dad and I ate for over an hour. Listening to the story about Zhang Chen, I genuinely feel it's such a raw deal for Uncle Zhang and Auntie Zhang, but there was nothing I could do. I knew exactly how obsessed Zhang Chen was with Su Yan. My own safety had to come first. 6. When the semester ended and I returned home, my parents had a hearty dinner waiting for me. My parents told me that Aunt Zhang was in the hospital. She had always been so good to me. Back when my parents were busy with their business, they often relied on her to help look after me. Dad said, after dinner, let's go visit Auntie Zhang together. I nodded in agreement. When our family arrived at the hospital, the first sight of Uncle Zhang was a shock. The once robust middle-aged man now looked like a frail old man in his 70s or 80s. After greeting them politely, I walked into the hospital room. As I set down the gifts and saw Auntie Zhang's condition, my heart sank. She looked terrifyingly gaunt and emaciated, nothing but skin and bones. I can understand that feeling. In my past life, after I married Zhang Chen, I never had a single good day. I ended up so depressed that I had a miscarriage, and that's why I chose to end my own life. But in this life, it's his parents instead. I can't even imagine what could turn someone who was such an outstanding student into this. To drive his own parents to such a state, this Su Yan must have some truly masterful tricks when it comes to controlling men. I used to think Su Yan was just a troublemaker, but now I see she's far more complex than I ever imagined. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. His mother is this gravely ill, and her son is nowhere to be found. I peeled and cut up some fruit for Auntie Zhang. As she ate it, she began to cry. She opened her mouth a few times as if to say something, but upon seeing my parents, she closed it again. It wasn't until my mom went to the restroom and Uncle Zhang led my dad to the smoking area, that Auntie Zhang finally took my hand and said, "Xiaobei, I've always been good to you, haven't I?" I nodded. Aunt Zhang continued, "I've never asked you for anything in my life. I know you've always liked Zhang Chen. You're much prettier than that vixen Su Yan. Could you go and win him back for me? Drive that homewrecker away." I'll give you all my family's wealth. Just make him change his mind." Seeing Aunt Jane's pleading expression, my heart ached for her, but how could I possibly agree? That would be the death of me. Gritting my teeth, I shook my head and said, "Aunt Jean, I can't do that." Auntie Jean is truly at her wit's end. That foolish boy is completely out of his mind. I'm swallowing my pride to beg you, please, as a kindness, help your auntie. I'll treat you like a princess, I promise. Auntie Jean began to cry. Auntie Jean, ask me to do something I can actually manage. You know how Jean Chen is right now. You and the others can still reason with him and he might listen. If I go, I'm afraid I'd be risking my life. Auntie Jean shook her head. No, that won't happen. You're so beautiful. How could that vixen Su Yan possibly compare to you? You can definitely do it. Just then, Mom came out of the bathroom, forcing Aunt Jean to stop. It was such an awkward and heartless situation to discuss. 7. After sitting for a while longer, we headed home. On our way out, we ran into Jean Chen. I merely gave him a nod in greeting, while my parents didn't even glance his way. On the drive back, Mom finally spoke up. What did Auntie Jean say to you? Did she make some unreasonable request? The moment I showed up, she clammed up and couldn't even look me in the eye. I explained the whole situation. Dad was the first to react, his voice rising with agitation. Absolutely not. Over my dead body would we have anything to do with that good-for-nothing? Jean Chen is nothing but trouble. Any family that gets involved with him is asking for misfortune. Worried I might naively dive headfirst into this mess, Mom added, ever since Auntie Jean was beaten up by Su Yan at the school that time, her health has been poor, and now it's just getting worse and worse. The doctor said her body is worn out from overwork and long-term depression, combined with her age. Her health is in serious decline. If things take a turn for the worse, she could pass away at any moment, even with his mother in that state, and after his father's desperate pleas, even going so far as to kneel, Jean Chen still refused to leave Su Yan. It just shows how heartless and unfilial he is. And to this day, Su Yan hasn't even offered an apology. Not only did she freeload off their family, but she also looked down on them for being poor. Tell me, is that the kind of person you'd want to be associated with? The Zhang family must have had the worst luck for generations to end up with a son like that, Dad added quickly, as if afraid I might actually agree. I know better than anyone how awful Jean Chen is. There's no way I'd ever go near him again. I had to reassure my parents over and over that I would never have anything to do with him before they finally relaxed. As the Lunar New Year approached, we heard that Auntie Zhang had been discharged from the hospital, but she was no longer able to work. All the household chores fell squarely on Jean Chen's father's shoulders. Jean Chen himself was nowhere to be found at this time. It was only because the neighbors pitched in to look after Auntie Zhang whenever they had a spare moment that Uncle Jean could catch a break. People talked about Jean Chen even more, and the criticism behind his back was relentless. On New Year's Eve, loud arguments erupted from Jean Chen's home. The neighbors could clearly hear his father's furious roars and his mother's sobbing. His parents and the neighbors, thinking something terrible had happened, rushed over to see if they could help, but as soon as they reached the door, they heard Su Yan's agonized screams and Jean Chen's desperate pleas for mercy. The neighbors all turned back and went home, each secretly wishing for Su Yan to get a good beating. The harsher, the more satisfying. Everyone was gathered outside their doors watching, completely forgetting about the New Year's Eve dinner. Our whole family was crowded at the window watching, and the New Year's Eve feast just didn't seem appealing anymore. 8. To our surprise, the police and an ambulance arrived shortly after. They went into Uncle Zhang's house and took him away. Su Yan, covered in blood, was carried away by the ambulance. Jean Chen, also bloodied, went with her in the ambulance. Only then did everyone go to their house to check. Dad went too, telling Mom and me to stay inside, but Mom and I couldn't resist. We went outside, gossiping with the neighbors about the incident and watching from a distance. Later, Auntie Wang invited the weeping Auntie Zhang over to spend the New Year together, with several other women there to console her. After Dad came home and the family finished the New Year's Eve dinner, he said he was going to visit old Zhang at the police station and asked Mom to pack some food for him. It's New Year's Eve, after all, we can't let him go hungry, or people will say we're terrible neighbors. Dad didn't come back until midnight. When we pressed him for details, he finally told us that Jean Chen had originally planned to stay home and help his father out after his mother was discharged from the hospital. But Su Yan said young people should live it up, otherwise they'll regret not doing things when they're old. We don't live to work, but to enjoy life. Otherwise, what's the difference between living and being dead? Then, Jean Chen just up and left his parents to go traveling. That was bad enough. but just 2 days after he got back, his father got a debt collection call. It turned out they had taken out an online loan for the trip and spent 100,000. A huge fight broke out. Uncle Zhang, in a fit of rage, hit Su Yan with a rolling pin and injured her. Zhang Chen's pleas fell on deaf ears, and he actually ended up fighting with his own father. It was Aunt Zhang who called the police, afraid that Uncle Zhang would be hurt by his good-for-nothing son. If that happened, there really would be no one left to take care of the family. That homewrecker deserves to die. How can a woman like that even exist in this world? Mom was so angry she couldn't sleep, but I was strangely calm. I'd endured all this in my past life, suffering from long-term insomnia and nervous exhaustion. Perhaps the neighbors couldn't stand it either. The next day, a group of them went to the police station to plead for Zhang Chen's father, explaining Su Yan's wrongdoing. Combined with it being the holiday season, the police let him go for the time being. No sooner had everyone brought Uncle Zhang back home than Zhang Chen rushed in, thrusting his hand out at his father. Su Yan's injuries from your beating are severe. The hospital is demanding 20,000 for the medical bills. Uncle Zhang was so furious he nearly fainted. The neighbor uncles couldn't stand to watch any longer, and my dad was the first to charge forward and slap Zhang Chen. Are you even human, you bastard? How did our Zhang family ever produce a beast like you? Then, the eldest uncle roared, tie this brat up. Let that vixen die in the hospital. Everyone swarmed forward. No matter how Zhang Chen struggled, he was no match for these hardened, older men. He was quickly tied up. Uncle Zhang watched from the side, his hands trembling with rage. This is our family's business, none of your concern. A life is at stake here. The doctor said Su Yan has a head injury. If she doesn't get help, she could be in real danger. Zhang Chen shouted, but no one paid him any mind, tying him to a nearby tree instead. Hearing him still call out for Su Yan, Uncle Zhang picked up a branch from the ground and began whipping Zhang Chen furiously. At first, he kept yelling to save Su Yan, but after more than a dozen lashes, the pain forced Zhang Chen to start begging for mercy. Dad, I was wrong. Please, save her first. If Su Yan dies, you'll go to jail. I'd rather be shot than save that vixen. What sin did I commit in a past life to be cursed with a beast like you for a son? After breaking the branch, Uncle Zhang sat down beside it, panting for breath. This time, no one paid him any mind. Zhang Chen's father was pulled away by the men around him to drink and eat, while his mother was led off by the neighbor aunts to chat about everyday matters. As the hospital couldn't reach Zhang Chen, they called the police, and the officers showed up once again. 9. After the police understood the situation, they were at a loss and contacted Su Yan's family. It turned out that Su Yan had been raised by her grandparents since childhood. After her parents divorced, their whereabouts were unknown. Her grandparents also passed away one after the other during her second and third years of middle school. After graduating from junior high, she drifted through life on the streets. In the end, the police could only inform them that since it was Zhang Chen's father who did the beating, he was legally obligated to cover the medical expenses. Failure to do so would be against the law, but this time, Uncle Zhang's family was truly strapped for cash. Having spent a considerable amount on Aunt Zhang's medical treatment, they still hadn't repaid the 100,000 yuan borrowed for their trip. The neighbors couldn't just stand by and watch Uncle Zhang face legal consequences over the medical bills, so they each chipped in 2,000 yuan to cover the cost. He even comforted Uncle Zhang, saying that at least putting that homewrecker in the hospital felt satisfying. Over at the hospital, they just gave Su Yan emergency treatment to stabilize her. Keeping her alive was the only priority. Later, Zhang Chen was let go. You can't keep someone tied up forever. The moment he was free, he went straight to find Su Yan, which infuriated his father so much he smashed bowls at home in a rage. Afterwards, word got around that once Su Yan was discharged, Zhang Chen left with her. This time, his parents didn't go after him. They simply acted as if they never had a son. In fact, it was at home where things grew quiet. The neighbors would often invite them over for meals and drinks, offering comfort and support. For more than 3 years after that, I never saw Zhang Chen again. After graduation, my dad asked me to come back home to build my career, and I agreed. When I returned, my parents told me that Zhang Chen and Su Yan had gotten married and had invited the neighbors to their wedding banquet. I heard he was working for a boss out of town and was getting by all right. Everyone was still happy for Uncle Zhang, thinking he had finally made it through the hard times, but later, we heard that Su Yan couldn't carry a child to term. She would miscarry every time she got pregnant. The hospital said she had undergone too many abortions and it was impossible for her to have a child. When Uncle Zhang heard this, he was so furious he was left speechless. He kept lamenting all day that the Zhang family line would die out with him, probably too numb to even cry. Zhang Chen, unwilling to let it go, kept pressing for answers. He eventually tracked down the hoodlums Su Yan used to hang out with. It was only then he discovered that Su Yan had been involved with all of them, and each one had gotten her pregnant. This was more than Zhang Chen could bear. He got into a fight with these men, and ended up being the one beaten so badly he was hospitalized. When Aunt Zhang found out, she was so enraged she was hospitalized again. She passed away just over a week later. The neighbors and the Zhang family relatives came together to lay Aunt Zhang to rest. I was there at the funeral, watching Zhang Chen kneel before the grave in his mourning clothes. Relatives from both his father's and his aunt's families had all come, right there in front of the tombstone. His own uncles and maternal uncles gave Zhang Chen a severe beating. As for Uncle Zhang, he seemed to have become somewhat vacant, sitting off to the side and staring blankly. Everyone had thought that after this incident, Zhang Chen would finally come to his senses. Barely a week after Aunt Jing's death, Zhang Chen went running to find Su Yan again. This time, no one paid him any mind, not even Uncle Zhang, who would just wake up and sit by the front door every day. The neighbors would take turns inviting Uncle Zhang to eat with them. Over the past 6 months, thanks to my excellent performance at work and my dad's connections, I was promoted to a mid-level management position at the company, with an annual salary now exceeding 500,000 yuan. My parents were taking me out to celebrate my promotion and raise when, just around the corner from our street, we saw Zhang Chen being beaten up by 5 guys. My dad's heart went out to him, and he rushed over to intervene, shouting, "Stop it, I've already called the police." A guy with red hair looked my dad up and down and yelled, "Hey old man, sticking your nose in, are you? This punk owes us money. If you want to get involved, fine, you can pay up for him. I don't owe you a damn thing." "You're lying," Zhang Chen shouted. 2 thugs stepped forward and immediately kicked him. "You think there's no law here? Is that it?" Dad rushed over, shoved the thugs aside, and pointed at them. "You lay another finger on him, and I'll sue you for every penny you've got. This whole place is on camera." 3 of the thugs moved to attack again, but the red-haired one held them back and laughed. "Listen, old man, you look like a guy with money, so I'll spell it out for you. This punk's been messing with my girl. He promised to hand over his paycheck every month, and this time he didn't pay up. He's been freeloading off my woman. Tell me, doesn't he deserve a beating?" Dad was shocked and smacked Zhang Chen on the head. "You little punk, you're fooling around with women now." "No, Su Yan is my wife. I was just giving the money to her. This month, the bank suddenly seized my salary out of the blue. They said I had old debts, so they're only leaving me 1,000 for living expenses each month." Zhang Chen wore a look of utter grievance. "Su Yan, you're still hanging out with this homewrecker." Dad was speechless. He wanted to leave, but for old Jang's sake, he couldn't just stand by and watch the guy get beaten to death, so he spoke up. "I know Su Yan, those 2 are married. I even went to their wedding banquet. How can you call her your woman?" The red-haired guy sneered and beckoned to the people across from him. Su Yan walked over impatiently. "What's the holdup? Can't you even handle this?" Redhead put his arm around Su Yan and laughed. "This gentleman here is asking if you're his wife or my woman." Su Yan snorted coldly. "What makes this loser think he can be my husband? A marriage certificate doesn't mean you can tie me down. Dream on. If you want to set foot in my place, you'd better hand over every last cent of your 8,000 yuan salary each month." Dad watched the scene in disbelief. "How did old Zhang end up with a spineless son like you?" Just then, the police arrived. Red hair sneered coldly. "Zhang Chen, mark my words, you will make up this month's payment." After the group left, Mom called out impatiently, "Let's go already, we're going to miss our hotel reservation." Dad looked at the blood-covered Zhang Chen, then checked the time. Finally, he waved his hand and said, "You all go ahead, I'll take this kid over to old Jang's place. The kid's a real piece of work, but I can't just ignore old Jang's feelings." Mom was clearly annoyed. She drove off. We waited for over an hour before Dad finally showed up. The moment he walked in, Mom started complaining about him meddling in other people's business. Dad, however, had this strange grin on his face. Puzzled, I asked, "Dad, did you bump into some beauty on the way here? You can't seem to stop smiling." Dad shot me a glare. "Don't be ridiculous. I finally understand why that kid Zhang Chen is so smitten with Su Yan." "Why?" Mom and I asked in unison. We were both dying to know what kind of power could make someone simp for another person that hard. Dad flashed a sly, conspiratorial grin. "Before I came, I gave that kid 8,000 for living expenses. Only then did he spill the beans," said Su Yan's skills were just too good. "Ha ha ha ha, I couldn't believe it. The mystery that had haunted me for 2 lifetimes was just this. Mom slapped Dad on the arm. What kind of dirty joke is that in front of our daughter? Look at you laughing. Are you implying something about me? No, honey. We're both so old now. It's not right to talk like this in front of our daughter. You know it's wrong, too. Watching them fool around, I couldn't help but laugh. Thank goodness we were in a private room, out in public. That would have been mortifying. 11. I thought that was the end of it, but the real bombshell came just 2 days later. Zhang Chen was actually accused of rape by Su Yan, and the police actually opened a case and arrested Zhang Chen. Uncle Zhang and the family relatives had no choice but to go to Su Yan's home to beg for forgiveness. Su Yan demanded $1 million right off the bat, threatening to have Zhang Chen put behind bars otherwise. When my dad found out about this, he was furious and got a lawyer to help fight the case, but in the end, there was just no way out of it. With the video evidence right there, it's either that Zhang Chen was incredibly foolish on his own, or he was set up by these people. In the end, to keep his son out of jail, Uncle Zhang sold his house. Our family discussed it, since Uncle Zhang's house was right next door and we felt our own place was getting cramped. We bought it from him at the market price of $1.8 million. After getting the money, old Uncle Zhang made Zhang Chen divorce Su Yan, and then took Zhang Chen back to their hometown. Half a year later, Zhang Chen suddenly asked to see me, showing up right at the entrance of my office, with no other choice. I sat down with him at the tea restaurant next to the office. The place was crowded, mostly with colleagues from the company, so I wasn't afraid of him trying anything. Then he came right out and said, "Can you give me another chance? I know how you feel." Hearing that, I almost had to laugh. I stood up, put down $300, and said, "Consider this my treat. If there's nothing else, I'll be going now." Zhang Chen grabbed my hand and said excitedly, "We used to be married." I looked at him in shock and sneered, "Zhang Chen, have you lost your mind? I've never been married. When were we ever husband and wife? You might not believe me, but I'm a reincarnator. In my past life, right before the college entrance exams, you called my parents. You stopped me from starting my own business, which is how I ended up getting into Peking University with you." I was utterly stunned by those words, and it took me a long time to recover, but soon, a deep-seated hatred welled up inside me. If he were just the Zhang Chen of this world, I would merely be wary of him, keep my distance, and it wouldn't have come to hatred. But him claiming to be a reincarnator, that changes everything. That's Zhang Chen, the man who killed me in my past life. I can never forgive the Zhang Chen from that life. Coming back to my senses, I wrenched my hand from his and said coldly, "And then, we studied together, graduated together. On graduation day, I proposed to you in front of everyone, and you said yes. We became husband and wife." Zhang Chen looked at me with deep affection. I asked again, "And then what happened?" "We lived together after we got married." I slammed the table in agitation and roared, "And after that," he stammered. "We lived happily ever after." "Of course, happiness," I shouted, drawing stares from many in the restaurant. "What if I told you I'm a reincarnator too?" He was shocked, his face a mask of disbelief. I said, enunciating every word, "You won't say it. Fine, I'll tell you. You hated me for ruining your relationship with Su Yan. You married me just to torment me. After I got pregnant, you nagged me every day, gave me the silent treatment, forced me to do all the housework, and beat me if I refused. You drove me into depression, caused my miscarriage, and finally pushed me to take my own life in despair." I moved closer to him, my voice dripping with hatred. "You remember what you said to me right before I died, don't you?" Zhang Chen was stunned. He lowered his head, not daring to look at me, and spoke in a fearful tone. "After that, your father killed me. That's why I was reborn. Even after coming back, I didn't dare to look for you. Your father was terrifying back then. He beat me to death, slowly. I never imagined my kind-hearted father could go that far." I suddenly smiled. "It's so good to have a father like that, and he's right here by my side. With both my parents here, I have everything I need." Zhang Chen suddenly fell to his knees and pleaded, "I sincerely regret what I did. Please, just give me one more chance, just one." Right in front of him, I blocked all his contact information. Then, I said slowly and deliberately, "We can never go back. The fact that I haven't tried to destroy you is my last act of mercy." With that, I left, leaving a stunned Zhang Chen behind. I never saw Zhang Chen again after that. I later heard that Zhang Chen went to find Su Yan again, but this time it wasn't to reconcile. He killed Su Yan and those 5 thugs, and then he took his own life. I can understand that by taking his own life, he might have been hoping for a rebirth. I don't know if he truly got one, but no matter how many times over I could never choose Zhangchen again. There are better people in this world for me to cherish. My parents. Story 2. On the day my childhood sweetheart got engaged to someone else, I was involved in a plane crash. The person who came to collect my body was Chen Yizhua, whom I once called a hateful person. He dropped everything and chose to commit suicide, to go to hell with me. In my new life, I knocked on Chen Yizhua's door in the heavy rain. In his astonished eyes, I pulled his sleeves. Chen Yizhou, shall we get married? The man's eyes suddenly turned red, but he shook my hand off indifferently. Is it fun to tease me? That night, I was shivering in the rain. Chen Yizhou opened the door with a murderous look on his face, sighed, and pulled me into his arms. Shentang, I'm just a dog you raised. When I opened my eyes again, I was awakened by a cool breeze. I got up and closed the window. The weather has just begun to turn to autumn. And I have returned to the time before my childhood sweetheart Su Chen got engaged. My phone rang several times. It was a message from Su Chen. Tang, I'm having dinner with Shu tonight. You can come over too. I know you feel uncomfortable, but I have decided to marry her. We will meet each other in the future. I don't want the relationship between the two most important people in my life to become so strained. Please give me some face and have dinner together tonight, okay? Looking at the messages popping up on my phone, I sneered. In my previous life, I had always been devoted to Su Chen. He promised me that we would get married after graduating from college. I never worry that Su Chen will go back on his word, because I know that with our childhood sweetheart relationship, he will marry me one day. But later, a girl named Shu Yu appeared in Su Chen's life. She always liked to tease Su Chen, often making him blush. I would also kiss his cheek and say, "You are so cute." When he is angry, I watched Su Chen fall step by step. He said that after Shu Yu appeared, he finally understood what it felt like to be in love. He said she was his light and his salvation. He also said that he would never marry anyone except Shu Yu in this life. He forgot everything he had promised me and cruelly and decisively made me accept the reality. In my previous life, on the day he and Shu Yu got engaged, I was on a business trip in Los Angeles. When I heard the news, I was devastated. I immediately turned down all my work and bought a plane ticket to rush back home. Maybe it was God's will that I couldn't stop them from getting together. That day, the plane I was on crashed. At the moment when the cabin was falling rapidly, I felt more regretful. I don't think I should die like this. What I am even more unwilling to accept is that I lost my life in vain for a man who didn't love me, too. After I died, my soul has been wandering around the place where the plane crashed. The media reported the incident as soon as possible, and the only person who came to collect my body was Chen Yizhua, the person I once hated the most. He rushed to the scene with red eyes. He let his hands dig into the ground until it was bloody, but he still refused to stop. Chen Yizhou kept calling my name. The overwhelming grief made his eyes go dark and he passed out. Later, he committed suicide by taking pills in his villa. When they were found, the best time for rescue had already passed. The suicide note in the study only had one sentence: "Don't be afraid, Tang. I'm here to accompany you." Maybe Chen Yizhua's obsession was too deep, and I came back to life again, feeling the fresh breath. I just felt like it's been a long time. This time, I decided to take good care of Chen Yizhua. This man who once gave his life to me, he loved me so much. But I was blind in my previous life and let him down. Thinking of this, I opened the chat interface on my phone, replied to Su Chen with a short message: "I have no objection to whoever you marry, just don't contact me anymore." After sending this, I quickly turned off my phone. It was getting dark outside the window. At this point, Chen Yizhua should have finished get off work. When I changed my clothes and went out, the weather news was on TV. From 18:30 tonight, there will be heavy rainfall in the city. Please bring rain gear when going out. I didn't care and turned off the TV. When I got off the taxi, it started to drizzle. Relying on my memory, I searched for Chen Yizhua's address in the villa area. In my previous life, I only heard him mention it once. When I reached the door, I swallowed nervously. Then, he raised his hand and pressed the doorbell. Even when I heard that Su Chen and Shu Yu were engaged in my previous life, my heart had never beaten so fast. This is the first time I've seen Chen Yizhou again after so many years. The doorbell rang several times before footsteps were heard from inside. After opening the door, Chen Yizhua and I looked at each other. He was wearing a gray home suit, and his black hair made him look a little cute. Seeing that it was me at the door, his eyes jumped. Shentang, under his gaze, my face gradually turned red. It was raining heavily, and drops of rain were hitting the steps under my feet. I took a deep breath and grabbed Chen Yizhou's sleeve in the astonished look in his eyes. "Chen Yizhou, shall we get married?" 3. the air suddenly became quiet. Chinijo's eyes suddenly turned red. He looked at me steadily, as if trying to read something from my face. After a long while, Chinijo finally laughed at himself. Shintang. Is it fun to play tricks on me? He turned to leave, but I pulled him back again. When I met Chinijo's indifferent eyes, I just felt extremely uncomfortable. So this is what it feels like to be ignored. That's how I treated him in the past. I once called Chinijo a disgusting person. I once cried hysterically in front of him, begging him not to appear in my life again. Chinijo must have felt very uncomfortable at that time, but I was still feeling sad for Su Chen. And my mind was entirely on another man. I deserve to die. Thinking of this, my eyes became more determined. Chinijo, I know you don't believe me now, but I am sincere about getting married. I want to be with you. Chinijo's eyes deepened and he lowered his eyelids. The moment I closed the door, I heard Chinijo's cold voice. It's raining, let's go back early. Just like that, Chinijo locked me out. The heavy rain roared and hit me in protest. I tried my best to move inside, but half of my body was still wet. In the early autumn weather, the rain brings a chilly chill. I stood there, not moving a step. After closing the door, Chinijo forced himself to go to the study to continue working. He has been doing this for 2 days in a row. The project had reached its final stages and he had to keep an eye on it, but the woman outside the door made him upset and unable to concentrate. She suddenly came to him today and said she wanted to get married, which really scared him. In the past, such words would never come out of Shintang's mouth. At one point, Chinijo thought he was suffering from lovesickness and was hallucinating, but seeing her determined eyes, Chinijo was inevitably moved. He hardened his heart and forced himself to stop caring about her. 10 minutes passed. The surveillance on the computer showed that she had not left yet, even though she was shivering with cold. She still waited stubbornly for him to come out. It's so persistent. Chinijo shook his head helplessly, but finally softened his heart. He went to the bathroom to get a large clean towel and walked quickly to the entrance. I was standing at the door, shivering all over with cold. Just when I thought Chinijo would ignore me, the door opened. A clean towel quickly blocked my view. Then, I felt myself being pulled into a warm embrace. Chinijo's hoarse voice sounded in my ears. Shintang, I'm just a dog you raised. I've decided not to like you anymore. But I can't control my heart. My heart trembled violently and I opened my mouth to say something. The next second, she was picked up by the man and the rain was blocked outside the door. 4. Chinijo put me on the sink in the bathroom. His eyes were cold. Take a shower first. After saying that, he went to the bedroom and got me a set of men's pajamas. This is new and has never been worn. After you wash up, come out quickly. Watching him busying around, I nodded obediently. The bathroom door was closed by Chinijo. I looked at the furnishings in the bathroom and it was obvious that no woman had ever been here. This realization made me inexplicably excited. When I dried my hair and walked out, Chinijo was sitting in the study looking through some documents. Seeing me come out, he waited for me to come over. Drink this. Chinijo raised his hand and handed me the prepared cold medicine. The cup was still warm, and I drank it all in one gulp. Chinijo always has endless patience when it comes to me. Why couldn't I see his good side before? By the way, this is the first time I see Chinijo working seriously. He is completely different from the impression I had of him. I hesitated for a moment, thinking that I might as well not disturb him for the time being. As I was walking towards the living room, Chinijo stopped me. Are you serious about what you just said? I turned around and found Chinijo was also looking at me. His dark eyes showed no emotion. I'm serious, I answered like this. As he finished speaking, his eyelashes trembled, feeling the hesitation emanating from Chinijo. My heart ached. The next second, I walked to Chinijo. She held his hand tightly in his blank eyes. I meant every word I said today. Chinijo, I want to marry you. Is that okay? This was the first time I proposed to a man, and I felt inexplicably nervous. Even the way he looked at Chinijo became somewhat cautious. He looked at me with his peach blossom eyes, as if he was afraid that all this was fake. Tang Tang, prove it to me. Prove that you are willing to marry me. How do you want to prove it? After he finished speaking, the man's Adam's apple rolled. Kiss me. I didn't say anything, just looked at Chinijo quietly. There was a possessiveness towards me and a hint of fear in his eyes. He was panicking, afraid that I was just acting on impulse. The next second, without a second thought, I leaned over and kissed him on the lips. Just as expected, Chinijo's lips are soft and kissable. As if he sensed my initiative, Chinijo was a little bit unbelieving. I took a step forward and kissed him, and he gently took a step back. If he took a step back, I would pursue him without hesitation. After feeling my determination, Chinijo sighed and took the initiative. He pulled me onto his lap and showered me with kisses. Late at night, emotions stir, Chinijo carried me to the bedroom. His hoarse voice was particularly sexy in the middle of the night. Tang Tang, it's not too late for you to regret now. I didn't say anything, but just gently unbuttoned his clothes, used practical actions to show Chinijo that I have no regrets. There was a strong possessiveness in his eyes. Tang Tang, I will definitely die on you. I buried myself in his arms shyly. After all the trouble, I finally fell asleep from exhaustion. 5. When I woke up the next morning, Chinijo was gone. I walked into the living room and saw a prepared breakfast on the dining table. There was a pink sticky note stuck to it. Tang Tang, get up and remember to eat breakfast. I have an important meeting this morning. I will come back to pick you up after I finish my work. We will go to get the certificate. When I saw the words, get the certificate, I couldn't help blushing. Chinijo is really efficient. Get married when you say you will. Without any delay, I sat down in a good mood and ate the fried eggs Chinijo made for me. When I thought of him, the corners of my lips curled up slightly. While it was still early, I hailed a car and went straight home. I bought this house a few years ago. Although it's not big, it can be considered a home in this city. When I went downstairs with my ID, Chinijo was waiting for me in the car. I'll call a moving company later to move all your stuff to my place. He buckled my seatbelt expertly, his tone leaving no room for doubt. Seeing that I nodded without objection, Chinijo chuckled. He suddenly came closer and looked at me with his peach blossom eyes. Are you ready to be Mrs. Chen? My heart skipped a beat. Why didn't I realize before that Chinijo really likes to play tricks on people? I pursed my lips and kissed Chinijo on the lips without hesitation. The man's smile suddenly froze, and a suspicious blush appeared on his fair face. Chinijo coughed twice and returned to his seat. Sitting in the passenger seat, my smile gradually grew. A pure-hearted man like Chinijo is so easy to control. After completing a series of procedures, Chinijo seemed to have settled down. He held my hand and called me wife over and over again. I responded to him over and over again. Chinijo's eyes turned from joy to redness. At the moment of tears, he kissed my lips passionately. From now on, you are mine. Tang Tang, do you know how happy I am? Do you know how happy I am? I know. During so many dark days, he was always watching me silently from behind. Watch me cry, watch me laugh, watch me chase another man. Now, it's my turn to love him well. 6. Late at night. After I came out of the shower, I turned on my cell phone. There were dozens of missed calls, all from Su Chen. The latest piece of information just now. Tang Tang, are you hiding from me? Tell me where you are now. I rubbed my brows with a headache and planned to tell him about the marriage. I heard footsteps behind me, and Chinijo picked me up sideways. I screamed and my phone accidentally fell on the bed. The man chuckled and didn't care. Wife, it's late, time to go to bed. The next second, his lips covered mine. Chinijo seems particularly anxious tonight. The words I spoke were swallowed up in the kiss. As they were making love, the clear sound of a cell phone ring filled the entire bedroom. Chinijo pretended not to hear and kissed her even more deeply. I was a little anxious and wanted to answer the phone. However, Chinijo grabbed my chin domineeringly and forced me to accept him. Tang Tang, pay attention, okay? But the bell rang and stopped, and rang again. There is a tendency to keep calling if you don't answer. After a long moment, Chinijo cursed inwardly. With an unsatisfied look on his face, he took my cell phone from the end of the bed. When Chinijo saw the two big words Su Chen, his face darkened. The tone was also much colder than before. Looking for you. I looked at Chinijo and pressed the answer button. The voice on the other end of the phone was more urgent than I expected. Tang Tang, I know you are angry with me. Please stop being angry, okay? I haven't been able to contact you these past 2 days. I'm very worried. Are you home? Can I come find you now? I pursed my lips. No need, I'm not home now. Su Chen immediately responded. It's so late. Where else could you be if you're not home? I'm here with Chinijo. The air suddenly became quiet. Su Chen's disbelieving voice came from the receiver. How could you? 7. Before I could say anything, I felt the air around me get several degrees colder. Chinijo raised his eyes slightly and said lightly, Tang Tang, didn't you tell him that we are married? Looking at Chinijo's slightly disappointed eyes, my heart tightened. Subconsciously, I wanted to explain to Chinijo. No, I just wanted to tell him, even though I couldn't get a response. Su Chen kept calling me on the other end of the phone. Chinijo's eyes darkened and he kissed my slightly open lips without hesitation. Tang Tang, let me tell you. What method should I use to defeat my love rival? Su Chen was originally very anxious. He had imagined 10,000 reasons that he could not accept, why is Shintang at Chen Yizhou's place so late at night? But when he heard a slight gasp from the other end of the phone, Suchin felt like he was struck by lightning. At that moment, Suchin felt as if his world was collapsing. He once thought that as long as he looked back, Shintang would always be waiting for him there, but now she is in the arms of another man. She doesn't like him anymore. This realization made Suchin tremble all over, and his blood froze. The next second, he heard Chen Yizhou's voice on the other end of the phone. Next time, remember not to disturb our married life at night, Suchin. Don't you have a wife? After saying this, Chen Yizhou decisively hung up the phone, but Suchin was still in shock for a long time. Shintang and Chen Yizhou got married? No way, this is impossible. Tang clearly hated Chen Yizhou so much before. She clearly felt disgusted if she looked at Chen Yizhou for any longer than necessary. Why marry him now? The more Suchin thought about it, the more upset he became, so he simply swept everything on the table to the ground. Inside the villa's bedroom, after a lot of trouble, Chen Yizhou held me in his arms and said nothing. I felt a little flustered, but I still propped myself up and looked at him. There was an emotion in Chen Yizhou's eyes that I couldn't understand. I leaned over and slowly smoothed his frown. Chen Yizhou, are you unhappy? The man's eyes moved slightly, and his hands around my waist tightened. Tang, you still like Suchin, right? 8. Chen Yizhou's words made my eyes suddenly red. No, I really don't like him anymore. I was just about to tell him, but you interrupted me. Chen Yizhou, the person in my heart now is you. Chen Yizhou looked at me, after a long time. He finally smiled. Okay, I understand. The more he did this, the more flustered I felt. I would rather Chen Yizhou scold me or vent his emotions to me. Unfortunately, he didn't. I went forward and hugged his neck. Honey, do you believe me? Despite the sweet words, Chen Yizhou still couldn't stand this kind of attack. He hugged me lovingly. I trust you, Tang. I just care about you too much. I greedily hope that you have always been mine alone. His eyes were red, and he held my hand to his lips tenderly and kissed it gently. I know it all. His fear and vulnerability were all revealed to me. All I can do is give him a sense of security. My married life with Chen Yizhou is happier than I imagined. He never comes into contact with the opposite sex and has a strong sense of propriety. Even a small word from me can be kept in his heart. My friends all say that I am lucky to have a husband like this, to the extent that I looked at Chen Yizhou busy in the kitchen wearing an apron, and suddenly I felt something was unreal. Walking into the kitchen, I hugged Chen Yizhou from behind. He paused while cutting vegetables and chuckled again. You seem to be particularly clingy to me these past 2 days. After saying this, the corners of his lips slightly raised. It's a good thing. I tightened my hands around Chen Yizhou's waist, feeling a little distressed. If this makes you happy, I'll do more of it in the future. Chen Yizhou's back stiffened for a moment, and then he turned around. His eyes darkened and he looked at me with his peach blossom eyes. Really, will you love me more and more? At this moment, Chen Yizhou was like a cautious child, trying to please others. I hugged his neck and stood on tiptoes to place a kiss on his forehead. Yes, Chen Yizhou, I will love you more and more. Chen Yizhou's eyes darkened and a gentle kiss fell, a touch of warmth. 9. On Friday night, Chen Yizhou was out for a social event. I originally planned to go home, take a shower, watch TV series, and wait for Chen Yizhou to come back. Unexpectedly, I received an invitation to a high school reunion when I was getting off work. This party was initiated by our high school class monitor. When I arrived at the dining area, Suchin was standing at the door waiting for me. He looked delighted to see me coming. I didn't intend to pay attention to him and just walked past him. Unexpectedly, Suchin eagerly grabbed my arm. Tang, are you really married to Chen Yizhou? Tell me, this is fake, right? You obviously hated Chen Yizhou the most in high school, so why did you marry him? Suchin's words sounded like a question, but also like he was talking to himself. He had a forced smile on his face. Waiting for my answer, I shook my hands and took a step back. Do you think I should lie to you? Why? Because I love him. As soon as he finished speaking, I saw Suchin's eyes turned red instantly. No way, you can't possibly love him. You clearly said that you would marry me after you graduated from college. Tang, look at me. The person you love is me, right? Suchin's eyes were bloodshot and he grabbed my shoulders tightly. I frowned in pain, and Suchin let me go as if he had just woken up from a dream. Suchin, who was the first to break our oath? Do you want me to say more? Has it never happened that you and Shuyu are going to get married? Or do you want both Shuyu and I? I'm telling you, you'd better give up on this idea. Seeing my firm tone, he hesitated to speak. I glanced at him and walked forward, but Suchin's voice came from behind. Shuyu and I have broken up. I was bewildered before, And that's why I hurt your heart, Tang Tang. I regret it now, you and Chinijo divorce. And we can get back together, okay, I sneered but didn't stop. Why does Suchin think that as long as he looks back, I can always wait for him here? Everything he did now was just the result of his ridiculous possessiveness. When I loved him with all my heart, he felt confident, so you can love others passionately. When I turned around and married Chinijua, Suchin couldn't stand it anymore. He couldn't stand others invading his territory and taking his things, to put it bluntly. In Suchin's eyes, I am just an insignificant object, but Chinijua loves me with everything he has. He is fragile and sensitive. I will never hurt him again for Suchin. 10. The first time I met Chinijo was in my second year of high school. After school, I helped the teacher mark test papers. When I came out of the teaching building, the sunset in the sky was just right. On the other side of the basketball court stood a dirty young man. He was as worn out as a stray dog on the roadside. With his eyes lowered as he was being scolded by his father, I paused. Although it was far away, the middle-aged man's shouting and cursing was unbearable to hear. The young man had an indifferent expression and didn't even lift his eyelids. The next second, the middle-aged man slapped the boy hard in the face. Asshole. Don't think that just because your mother is gone, you have the right to do whatever you want. If you cause trouble in school again, I won't let you go. After he finished speaking, the middle-aged man quickly disappeared from my sight. Wherever I looked, I saw the boy curled up and squatted down. I didn't say anything and walked quickly towards the school gate. With every step I took, it felt like something was calling me from behind. I held on to the shoulder straps of my school bag tightly and finally stopped. I walked up to the boy and handed him a clean handkerchief. There's blood at the corner of your mouth. Are you okay? At that time, Chinijua looked up at me for the first time. I was stunned. Those were a pair of very clean and clear eyes. He took the handkerchief and said thank you. Later I learned that Chinijo's mother died when he was very young. He was extremely rebellious during his adolescence, and even refused anyone to enter his world. Even so, every time Chinijo was called to the police station as a parent, his father would still rush to the school and apologize to the teacher with his head down. Since then, there has been a little tale behind me that I can't get rid of. Chinijo would always follow me silently and send me home. He would also stand up for me and fight for me when I was bullied. During that time, the rumor in school was that Chinijua liked me. I finally couldn't stand it anymore. One time, I stopped Chinijua in the dead of night. Just tell me what you want. At that time, Chinijo chuckled, with a bitter smile. Shintang. All I want is you. What about you? Can you give it? That day, I cursed Chinijo harshly and called him a pervert. I cried and begged him to stop following me and stop appearing in my world. I said, Chinijo, you really make me sick. As they looked at each other, the light in Chinijua's eyes gradually faded. Later, I started to avoid him and tried my best to create opportunities to be with Suchin. However, even Suchin couldn't ignore Chinijo's presence. That's why he promised me that we would get married right after graduation. At that time, I looked at Chinijua, who was hidden in the light and shadow. He agreed to Suchin very deliberately and loudly, and Chinijo never appeared in front of me again. 11. Pulling myself away from my memories, I was already standing at the door of the box. When I pushed the door open, the scene was very lively. Suchin and I went in one after another, and everyone greeted me warmly. My former deskmate Xiaoyun pulled me over to sit down. Everyone was talking at once, but most of the conversation was just polite greetings. Shintang, you have been too low-key these years. You have never been at our gatherings. Yes, get together with us more often. We are all old classmates. I chuckled, busy with work. If Xiaoyun hadn't kept urging me this time, I naturally wouldn't have come. I never liked this kind of occasion. Since Suchin entered the box, he has been chatting with the squad leader. His eyes would fall on me from time to time, making me feel a little uncomfortable. Sat there for about 10 minutes. I picked up my purse and went to the bathroom. While I was putting on makeup, my cell phone rang with a message. Chinijo, Tang Tang. Are you having a party near the company? Me? How do you know? By the way, he sent Chinijo a puzzled expression. I got a quick reply. I installed a positioning system in your phone. I twitched my lips. This man wants to keep track of my whereabouts at all times. When we returned to the box, they were playing Truth or Dare. I sat next to Xiaoyun and watched them have fun. Unexpectedly, the next second, the bottle mouth on the table was suddenly pointed at me. Someone in the crowd asked, Truth or Dare? I pursed my lips and chose the adventure. Several active students immediately became excited. Like this, you and Suchin stand face to face, and put your arms around his neck. Say cheesy sweet nothings to him and kiss him on the cheek affectionately. As soon as he finished speaking, A burst of booing sound was heard. Everyone looked at Su Chen and me with mischievous expressions. Especially those who usually get along well with Su Chen, the meaning in their eyes is more obvious. I frowned and immediately denied it. Change it, I really can't do this. Su Chen's smile froze in an instant. Are you going to resist me this much even in games? I didn't say anything, and everyone started to persuade me. No way, Shen Tang, are you so insolent? Hey, didn't you used to be with Su Chen? Yeah, I also remember that you and Su Chen had a good relationship back then. Did you break up? It's just a kiss on the cheek. There's no need to be so disappointing, right? Among those who mocked me, there were also some girls in my class. Xiaoyun was indignant for me. Isn't that a bit too much? What if Tang Tang is married now? Wouldn't you be destroying someone else's family by making such a fuss? One of the girls rolled her eyes. You also said it's just a possibility, so what if she doesn't get married? Xiaoyun was so angry that her face turned red and her neck became thick. I patted her hand soothingly and looked at everyone. I am married. My husband is more sensitive. He will be unhappy if I do this. 12. After I finished speaking, all eyes in the box were focused on me. Su Chen's face turned blue and red. He stood up in shame and anger, and suddenly pulled me up. Then he leaned close to my ear. Tang Tang, do you really have to embarrass me in front of so many people? I was stunned. Then Su Chen pulled my hands up and placed them on his neck. I struggled, but he locked my hands tighter, just when I was getting angry and embarrassed. The door of the box suddenly opened. Chen Yizhou stood at the door with a stern face, staring straight at Su Chen and me. Who are you? Some people in the crowd looked at Chen Yizhou with displeased expressions. The next second, Chen Yizhou looked at him coldly. This look is full of oppression. The originally noisy box suddenly became quiet. Chen Yizhou stretched out his long legs, walked over and pulled me into his arms. He touched my red wrist with concern. Does it hurt? I shook my head and smiled at Chen Yizhou. He ruffled the strands of hair on my forehead. I have a bad temper, and my biggest weakness is protecting my wife. Shen Tang is now married. Please be careful when socializing in the future. If you offend my wife like this again, I will let you know the consequences. Chen Yizhou spoke, but his eyes were looking at Su Chen. The two men's eyes met in the air, under the strong sense of oppression from Chen Yizhou. Su Chen still looked away in embarrassment. After saying that, Chen Yizhou took my hand and left the box. Sitting in the passenger seat, I squeezed the seatbelt nervously. Although Chen Yizhou had no expression on his face, he was driving very fast. I wanted to say something, but was ultimately scared back by his gloomy face. Late at night, Chen Yizhou held me tightly in his arms. He pulled the quilt closer to me to make sure I wouldn't catch a cold. I sniffed. Chen Yizhou, I want to talk to you about what happened tonight. It's okay, go to sleep. The words that were about to come out were interrupted softly. Chen Yizhou kissed my forehead, his voice flat. I wanted to say something, but I could hear the sound of even breathing above my head. Forget it, let's talk about it tomorrow. 13. I had a very long dream in which a man was chasing me. When I was startled awake, I subconsciously touched my side, but he woke up instantly when he touched the cold quilt. Chen Yizhou is not next to me. I was startled. Wearing slippers, he hurriedly opened the bedroom door. When Chen Yizhou was found, he was sitting alone in the audiovisual room. There were no lights on inside, and even the movie was playing on silent mode. I fumbled to turn on the light, and at first glance saw the embarrassed and pitiful Chen Yizhou. He sat down on the carpet obediently. It seemed that he had maintained this posture for a long time. When he looked at me, his eyes were bloodshot. My heart skipped a beat and I walked over quickly. Can't sleep. Chen Yizhou looked up at me, his voice a little hoarse. Then why don't you turn on the sound? I was afraid of disturbing you. I lowered my eyelids and held Chen Yizhou's hand. In the past, Chen Yizhou's big hands were always warm and dry, but tonight his hands were exceptionally cold. I took a blanket from the sofa and covered him with it with heartache. Next time you can't sleep, be sure to call me. Can I accompany you? Chen Yizhou nodded obediently. Good, Tang Tang. I will do whatever you say. He held me in his arms, but his shoulders were shaking slightly. Chen Yizhou, do you have anything to say to me? I leaned on his shoulder and patiently guided him. I knew a long time ago that Chen Yizhou had severe paranoia. Once he has taken someone into his territory, he will never let go easily. After a long while, Chen Yizhou's trembling voice sounded. Tang Tang, I'm sorry. Although I know there's nothing between you and Su Chen, I still can't control my irritation. Even seeing you two standing together is unbearable for me. Before I got you, I thought that as long as you were willing to be with me, I would be willing to do anything. Then you married me. But I coveted your heart. I wanted your body and soul to belong to me. I know I'm being greedy, but I really can't help loving you. Every day I want you to stop talking to any other man in the world more than ever before. I'm really afraid that this morbid love will scare you." After he finished speaking, Chinishwa choked up. His tears fell on my shoulders and burned my heart. Chinishwa has always been a sensitive child. He lives in a dark world. He would be afraid of losing me, afraid of scaring me. Even though he was so unhappy about what happened tonight, he didn't dare to blame me. This kind of Chinishwa really makes me feel sorry for him. 14. I stepped out of his arms and gently wiped Chinishwa's tears. He looked at me cautiously, as if I were a child who had done something wrong. "Tang Tang, please don't leave me, okay?" In my impression, Chinijo never cried even when he was slapped by his father. Such a man was so fragile that he cried in front of me. I looked at him and kissed him on the lips without hesitation. Chinijo was stunned for a moment, then opened his lips to let me go deeper. After the kiss, I played with Chinishwa's messy hair. "Chinijo, you can actually tell me, no matter what it is, whether you are happy or unhappy, I hope you can share it with me. From the day I came to you, I was destined to be with you forever. I will never give this kind of feeling to anyone again, so, you can ask me again and again, I will never tire of responding to you. I love you very much." After saying this, Chinishwa's tears fell even harder. He pulled me into his arms. "Tang Tang, don't lie to me. If you lie to me, I'll go crazy." In the end, it is unclear who kissed whom first. Chinijo just eagerly tore my lips. It seems that only such strong possession can prove that I love him. An hour later, Chinijo carried me to the bathroom to take a shower. "I'm extremely sleepy." He kissed my lips enthusiastically. "Tang Tang, do you love me?" At the same time, even if I am extremely sleepy, I will still cooperate and say, "Chinijo, I love you so much." After getting the answer, Chinishwa carried me back to the room. He continued to hold me in his arms and fell asleep contentedly. 15. Time flies, and in a blink of an eye, Chinishwa and I have been married for more than half a year. I've been feeling nauseous quite a lot lately. When the relatives had not yet arrived, Chinishwa took me to get checked out. When the results came out, a kind middle-aged female doctor was sitting in front of me. "Congratulations, you're pregnant, 4 weeks pregnant. The baby is growing very healthy now." Chinijo and I looked at each other. I could read the deep joy in his eyes. Being a father for the first time, Chinishwa took care of every detail. He patiently asked the doctor about the taboos for pregnant women. In order to take better care of me, Chinishwa hired an aunt. Most of the time, he works at home. Even my nutritious meals would be prepared by Chinishwa himself. During the 2 months when I had the worst morning sickness, Chinishwa lost even more weight than I did. If I must say, Chinishwa is almost a perfect husband. Seeing how hard it was for me to be pregnant, he hugged me with heartache. "This is the only one. I don't want to have any more children." I patted his head with a smile. "Honey, do you want a boy or a girl?" At that time, he gently took me into his arms. "Boys and girls are fine, as long as it's yours." "I like it." I smiled and didn't expose it. The last time he went to buy a crib, Chinishwa bought a lot of little skirts for girls. I wanted to return it, but Chinishwa refused. "We don't know the gender of the baby yet. What if he can't wear it when the time comes? It's okay. Just keep it as a souvenir." A few months later, the child born to Chinishwa and me was finally born. It's a girl. The moment he came out of the delivery room, Chinishwa's eyes were red with tears. He kissed my sweaty forehead. "Tang Tang, thank you for your hard work." He named our child Chinsanyu. He said that his daughter must look more like me. Many years later, I leaned in Chinijo's arms. "Why did you like me in high school?" "Because you are pretty." I laughed and patted Chinijo's shoulder. "Be serious." Chinijo kissed my forehead. "My mother died when I was 8 years old. After she discovered my father's mistress, she lost her mind and died in a car accident. At that time, I always hated my father and even felt that life was meaningless. I'm dirty, I'm a gang fighter, I'm uneducated and I don't know how to do anything. It wasn't until later that you appeared in my life that I first had the idea of protecting a girl. Everyone is afraid of me, but you choose to get close to me regardless of everything." Listening to Chinijo recalling the past, I sighed softly. "If your mother knew that you are married now and have your own children, I know you feel uncomfortable, but I have decided to marry her." Chinijo looked at the stars in the sky. "Yeah, she'll be very happy." For a long time afterwards, Chinishwa just hugged me quietly. After a long time, he suddenly called me, "Tang Tang. Thank you for choosing me." I moved in his arms and looked up at him. "Chinijo, I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for loving me for so long." From the initial unexpected encounter to now when the dust has settled, Chinishwa walked towards me with determination at every step. "This world is brilliant and great, Chenishua stood in the light and shadow and stretched out his hand to me. He smiled and said to me, "Tang Tang. Welcome to my world." Story 2. Huyen came to the Welfare Institute to choose a younger sister. All the girls crowded around, praying to be selected. Only I hid in the wardrobe and fell asleep. I thought I could get rid of the fate of becoming the adopted daughter of the Hua family in my last life and eventually becoming Huyen's wife, live a new life freely and happily. But when I woke up, I saw Huyen standing in front of the wardrobe door. He smiled and asked me, "Luo Yang, would you like to come home with me?" 1. When I saw Huyen's face in front of me, I thought I was still in the nightmare just now. It wasn't until the director called me with a stern face, "Luo Yang, why did you hide here and fall asleep?" that I woke up and realized that everything in front of me wasn't a dream. Seeing me standing there in a daze, the director reached out and pulled me out of the wardrobe. She tidied up my collar for me and pushed me in front of the Hua couple, saying, "You fell asleep. And young Master Hua asked us not to wake you up. Everyone has been waiting for you for a long time." Huyen, who was mentioned, was standing in front of the Hua couple, with a faint smile on his face as he looked at me. At this moment, he was a bit different from the Huyen in my memory who was always cold to me. He took the initiative to greet me, "Luo Yang, hello." I don't know why, but when the words Luo Yang came out of his mouth, there was an indescribable strangeness. I frowned and avoided his gaze. In my heart, I was wondering why they had to wait for me when they could clearly choose someone else. Wait for me? What for? The director bent down and explained to me, "They want to adopt you. Yang Yang will have a home, with a father, a mother, and an older brother." The director, who usually didn't smile much, now showed me a rare smile. I think she was probably happy for me. For the children in the Welfare Institute, being adopted was a stroke of luck. But the director didn't know that I had been reborn. I already knew that Huyen would come to the Welfare Institute to choose a younger sister today, so I deliberately hid in the wardrobe. "Yang Yang, would you like to come home with us?" Aunt Hua took my hand and said gently, "A Yan has always wanted a younger sister. You can be his younger sister in the future." This scene was exactly the same as in my previous life. Scenes from my previous life flashed through my mind like a slideshow. I immediately pulled my hand back and looked up at the director, saying, "Director, I don't want to be adopted by them." As soon as I said this, everyone was surprised. The one who reacted the most strongly was Huyen. He frowned and asked me, "Why?" "Because I don't want to be your younger sister." Although I had refused him, there was not the slightest trace of anger on Huyen's face. Instead, his tone became even gentler, with a hint of subtle doting. "Then instead of being my younger sister, just come back to the Hua family with me and live together. Is that okay?" The director secretly tugged at my sleeve, but she still couldn't stop me from refusing Huyen again. No, I thought Huyen would give up. But when the director asked the Hua couple if they wanted to choose another girl, Huyen suddenly said loudly, "Mom, I want her." He said, "Only she looks the most like my younger sister, too." In my previous life, Huyen chose me among many girls because I looked somewhat similar to his younger sister. At that time, when I knew I had been selected, I just thought that God really favored me. I was taken back to the Hua family and renamed Hui Yang, and I got my own room in the huge villa. Even though that room didn't really belong to me, I was still satisfied, Mrs. Hua said. The children from the Welfare Institute inevitably have a narrow mindset and can't behave or speak appropriately, so I got rid of my old habits and gradually became less and less like myself. Mrs. Hua was strict with me. I had to practice the piano for more than 12 hours every day, even though the teacher clearly said that I had no talent for learning the piano. Mrs. Hua still accompanied me to practice the piano every day, but some things can't be forced. "Sorry, Mom, I still can't play well." Every time I apologized, Mrs. Hua would look at me with more doting and comfort me. "It doesn't matter. As long as Yang Yang works hard, you will definitely be able to play well in the future." Later, I learned that playing the piano was the hobby of Mrs. Hua's deceased daughter. The reason why Mrs. Hua treated me like this was just to find the shadow of another person in me, but I didn't care about that. A fish lacking water doesn't care whether the water it gets is clean or not. It just wants to survive. Water is to a fish what love is to me. It's enough just to have it. I studied the piano even harder and tried even harder to please Mrs. Hua. We became more and more like a real mother and daughter, until at Huyen's engagement banquet, he was drugged, and I happened to break into his room. Mr. Hua fainted from anger when he saw me and Huyen. Mrs. Hua slapped me in the face, saying, "I shouldn't have brought you to the Hua family in the first place." Huyen looked at me in silence, with emotions in his eyes that I couldn't understand, but I thought he was probably regretting it too. regretting choosing me as his younger sister. I don't know what happened. I didn't drug my brother. I tried my best to explain myself, but no one believed me. So later, whenever Huyen betrayed me countless times and betrayed our marriage, he would say, "Back then, you didn't hesitate to drug me just to marry your own brother. Now all of this is your retribution." Huyen hated me, so after we got married, he always liked to slap me in the face in public and embarrass me. Many people in the social circle were betting on how long my marriage with him would last. At most a year. Once the child is born, Huyen will kick her out. But unfortunately, the result was beyond everyone's expectations. Huyen and I were entangled for 19 years, even after I died. The words "wife of Huyen" were still engraved on my tombstone, Luo Yang. Tell me why you don't want to be adopted by the Hua family. After Huyen left with his parents, the director called me to her office. I was silent for a long time before casually finding an excuse. "I don't want to leave you and everyone else." The director sighed and advised me to think about it carefully again. I knew she was doing it for my own good and hoped that I would have a good life in the future. But I didn't want to make the same mistakes again. And I didn't want to have anything to do with Huyen anymore. However, a fire at night shattered all my plans. 3. Did you set the fire? In the hospital, I looked at Huyen coldly and questioned him. No, Huyen quickly explained. The fire department has already investigated and found that the fire was caused by the aging of the electrical wires. After saying this, he smiled self-deprecatingly. Yang, you think too poorly of me. In this life, I have only met him 2 or 3 times. But Huyen's attitude towards me was indescribably familiar. "I just want to help you. As long as you promise to come home with me, I will help the director pay off all the treatment expenses." The Welfare Institute caught fire last night, and the director was severely burned while trying to save us. I snorted coldly and said sarcastically, taking advantage of someone's distress, "Do you consider yourself a good person?" Huyen didn't explain anything for himself. He just said, Yang. "It doesn't matter if you don't want to be my younger sister, you can just be fostered in the Hua family." He patiently guided me and made concessions again and again, but I became even more curious. "Why do you insist on me going back to the Hua family with you?" Huyen said, "Because my mom misses my younger sister very much these days, and you look a lot like my younger sister. I want to take you home to keep her company." I half believed what he said. After all, Huyen's behavior towards me was really too abnormal. I asked him, "Is that all?" Huyen hesitated for a moment before nodding. "That's all." Although I didn't want to have anything to do with Huyen, the director was still lying in the hospital bed. On the way back to the Hua family, Hua-sun kept talking to me, but I remained silent throughout. He probably knew that he was annoying, so he softened his tone and tried to make up for it. "The Hua family can provide you with better conditions. Anyway, it's better than being in the Welfare Institute." Yang, don't blame me. I'm doing this for your own good. I'm doing this for your own good. Huyen also said this to me in my previous life. Huyen hated me for most of his life. It wasn't until I was on the verge of death that his attitude towards me softened a bit, but by then, I was already beyond the help of medicine, and only a kitten accompanied me every day. Once, on a whim, Huyen suddenly came back to the villa to see me and had the cat that I had raised for half a year thrown away. I asked him, why. He looked at me disdainfully and also said, "I'm doing this for your own good." At that time, I knew that when he said he was doing it for my own good, he didn't really mean it. This sentence was just an excuse for him to satisfy his own selfish desires and control, or maybe it was another way for him to torture me. After all, he had always been like this. Whatever I liked, he would destroy. As soon as the car arrived at the Hua family, we saw that Mrs. Hua was already standing at the door of the villa. Huyen had told her in advance that he would bring me back, so she had someone clean up the room on the 2nd floor early. Yang, this will be your room from now on." Mrs. Hua took my hand affectionately and asked, "Do you like it?" I lowered my eyes and looked at the hand held by Mrs. Hua for a moment, and then pulled it out. I was no longer the Hua Yang in my previous life who longed for maternal love. "Mrs. Hua, this is your biological daughter's room, right? There are a lot of her previous things in the room, and you preserved them very well. I can see that you cherish these things very much. If I live in this room, and I accidentally break these things, you will definitely be sad. I saw that there are guest rooms downstairs. I'll just live in a guest room." Mrs. Hua looked at me and was about to say something, but she was interrupted by Huyen. "Mom, Yang wants to live downstairs. Please ask the maid to clean it up." I looked at Huyen, who was speaking up for me. He probably didn't know that the main reason I didn't want to live on the second floor was that his bedroom was next door. Before Huiyan's engagement in my previous life, I got along harmoniously with him, even during my adolescence. When Mrs. Hui asked me, Yang, what kind of boy do you like? I looked at Huiyan, who had just come back from running, and smiled. I like someone like my brother. This casual joke became the evidence that I drugged my own brother many years later. Every time I explained myself, I didn't drug you, Huiyan would choke my neck and refute me. You said you liked me when you were 16, you've liked me for so many years, and in the end, you even used the means of drugging me to force me to marry you. Why don't you dare to admit it now? 4. Probably because I was back in this villa. I dreamed of the things in my previous life at night, during the last period of my life. The doctor said, it's not a good idea for you to stay alone like this all day. Call your family and friends to come and keep you company. I don't have any family. As for friends, my best friend before was Huiyan's fiancé, named Sujiai. Sujiai didn't return to the country until the 5th year of my marriage with Huiyan. Huiyan personally went to the airport to pick her up and organized a welcome party for her. Someone deliberately recorded a video of the party and sent it to me. The two of them were sitting in the corner, passionately kissing. I watched that video, which was only a few seconds long, over and over again throughout the night. It was also that night that I made up my mind to give up our second child and filed for divorce from Huiyan. He asked me, what's the reason? I showed him that video. Huiyan, I know you had no choice but to marry me back then. But now that Sujiai has come back, it seems that she has already forgiven you, so let's get a divorce and go our separate ways in the future. In fact, I had already proposed divorce to Huiyan several times before this, but he refused every time. I thought that now that Sujiai was back, he would agree this time, but Huiyan still tore up the divorce agreement I had prepared and deleted the video on my phone. Yang. I suddenly woke up and slapped Huiyan in the face. Huiyan, who looked like a teenager, looked at me with a wronged expression in his eyes. I heard you crying outside the door, so I came in to take a look. After saying this, he turned around and walked out. When he reached the door, he turned back and said, get up and have breakfast quickly, you'll be late for school soon. Just like in my previous life, the Hui family transferred me to Huiyan's school. When people saw me walking into the classroom behind him, someone asked him, Huiyan, who is she? Huiyan introduced me to them. Her name is Luo Yang, and she is currently fostered in my family. I thought vaguely of my past life, before the drugging incident. When Huiyan introduced me to people, he always said, my sister Huiyang. I looked at Huiyan, who was just a step away from me, and suddenly found that he seemed to be different from the Huiyan in my memory. He was neither like the Huiyan in my previous life when he was a teenager, nor like the Huiyan who always took revenge and tortured me later. My heart skipped a beat, and I suddenly thought of something. Huiyan, Ayen. Just as I called out to Huiyan and was about to ask my doubts, someone spoke up and called him at the same time as me. Huiyan looked at me and then looked up at the person behind me. I also turned around. The person standing at the door of the classroom and calling him was Sujiai. Ayen, wait for me after school, I have something to tell you. After saying this, Sujiai noticed me standing beside Huiyan. The way she looked at me wasn't friendly. She sized me up from head to toe as if in a contest. You're the girl who is fostered in the Hui family. After all, she was my best friend in my previous life. Almost as soon as Sujiai looked at me, I felt her obvious hostility towards me. This was completely different from my previous life. In my previous life, after Sujiai knew that I was Huiyan's younger sister, she affectionately took my arm, called me Yang, and introduced me to her social circle. But now, her attitude towards me was very similar to the last time I saw her in my previous life. We had a very unpleasant encounter that time. I asked her, the surveillance shows that only you and I entered Huiyan's room that day. I didn't drug him, so it was you, right? At that time, I couldn't figure it out. She liked Huiyan so much, so why did she ruin their engagement banquet? Her name is Luo Yang. Huiyan answered for me. Sujiai looked at me, gave a perfunctory smile, and didn't say anything more. After that, I sat in my seat, but I noticed that Sujiai kept looking back at me. Even though I felt strange in my heart, I had to ignore her, look away, and force myself to listen to the teacher carefully. 5. In my previous life, I wasn't good at studying. However, Mrs. Hui didn't mind my poor grades. It seemed that the worse I did in exams, the happier Mrs. Hui became. She always said, Yang is getting more and more like Nan. She also didn't like studying. A parent's love for their child means planning for their long-term future, Which mother in the world would hope that her daughter is just a beautiful but useless person? Ultimately, she never really regarded me as her own daughter. To her, I was probably just a consoling toy, in this life. I don't want to be like I was in my previous life, being a stand-in for someone else's daughter in the first half of my life and ending up as a useless canary, dying in depression in the second half. So studying is my only way out. But studying isn't an easy thing either. After realizing that I really couldn't understand the knowledge in these books, I got up somewhat frustrated. Hui Yan, who was talking to someone, noticed my movement. He turned his head and asked me, "Where are you going?" I replied impatiently, "To the toilet." In my memory, the girls' toilet in high school was always crowded during breaks, but today it was surprisingly empty. It wasn't until I pushed open the toilet door that I sensed something was wrong. Several girls inside almost simultaneously turned their heads and looked towards me at the door. The person closest to me was Sujiai. She threw away the cigarette but in her hand glanced at the girl who was being held down on the ground and covered in dirty water by them, and then walked towards me. She smiled and said, "Just kidding with her. Just for fun. You won't tell Hui Yan, will you?" I looked at the cigarette butt on the ground and suddenly realized that I never really knew Sujiai. Otherwise, how could I not know that she smoked and bullied her classmates when she was in school? After thinking for a while, I said, "I'm not that familiar with Hui Yan, really." Although Sujiai asked this, her expression clearly softened a lot. "Aren't you living in his house?" I met her gaze and said, "Just living in his house, but not familiar." Sujiai nodded, "That's good." After saying that, she quickly left with the others. After they all left, I took a look at the girl on the ground. I quickly looked away and walked into a cubicle. When I came out again, that girl was standing with her back to me next to the mop sink. She was only wearing a vest on the upper part of her body, and her original shirt was being rinsed under the faucet. Perhaps hearing the sound of me opening the door, she quickly wrung out the shirt, put it on directly, and then ran out quickly with her head down. As she passed by me, I suddenly reached out and grabbed her. The girl looked up at me in confusion, and I looked at her too. After a long silent looking, I remembered that her name was Chen Ling. I took off my coat and threw it to her. "Your shirt is wet." "Wear mine." Chen Ling lowered her head again and refused. "No need, the wet shirt is very transparent. Your vest inside will be visible." My words made Chen Ling's ears turn bright red. She somewhat embarrassedly raised her hand to cover her chest and hesitated for a long time before taking my coat. Seeing Chen Ling walk into the cubicle to change clothes, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief in my heart. Actually, I'm not the kind of person who likes to meddle in other people's business. In my previous life, not long after I transferred to the school, Chen Ling committed suicide by jumping off a building. The school's explanation was that it was due to family factors and excessive study pressure, but now it seems that perhaps the reason for her suicide wasn't that simple. After all, it was a young life. "Thank you." Chen Ling thanked me after changing her clothes. The words "you're welcome" were on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back. After thinking for a while, I asked Chen Ling, "Your grades should be very good, right?" I remembered that Chen Ling was the top student in the grade before she jumped off the building. She was stunned for a moment and then nodded. "Not bad, Chen Ling." I looked at the coat on her. "I lent you my coat. Can you help me with my studies?" I didn't give her a chance to refuse at all and continued, "After the quiz, we will change seats according to our grades. At that time, we can be desk mates, which will be convenient for you to help me with my studies." Chen Ling hesitated for a long time before agreeing to me. After school, Hui Yan stubbornly insisted that I go back with him in the car. As soon as I got in the car, Sujiai stopped him. "Yan, can we talk?" I wasn't interested in their business and didn't want to eavesdrop, but just it was very quiet here, and Sujiai was emotional and spoke very loudly. Their conversation was carried by the wind and blew into my ears. Sujiai asked Hui Yan, "Did you break up with me because of Luo Yang?" "Yan, we've been together for so long." As soon as Luo Yang appeared, "You mentioned breaking up with me. I can't think of any other reason except her." Hui Yan's tone was a bit helpless. "It has nothing to do with anyone, Xiaoi. I just suddenly realized that my feelings for you aren't romantic. I've always regarded you as my younger sister." In an instant, I suddenly understood why Sujiai had been paying so much attention to me today and even kept looking back at me in class 6. During dinner, Mrs. Hui suddenly said, Yang, I found a piano teacher for you today, starting from tomorrow." Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by Hui Yan. "Mom, Yang doesn't like the piano. Don't impose your hobby on her." Mrs. Hui smiled awkwardly but didn't say anything more. I looked up at Hui Yan. And my suspicion in my heart was further confirmed. In this life, I've never told Huyen that I don't like the piano. The only person who knew I didn't like the piano was Huyen from my previous life. At that time, my condition deteriorated rapidly because he threw away my cat. Huyen, who couldn't stand the sight of me, actually, for the first time, put aside his work and moved back to the villa to take care of me. It happened to be our 19th wedding anniversary. Huyen gave me a Steinway piano that was airlifted to the country, even though I said, I don't like the piano. I used to learn it just because mom liked it. Huyen just gave me a set of jewelry as a supplementary gift that night. He suddenly seemed like a different person, being meticulous and patient with me. How do you know Yang Yang doesn't like the piano, Mrs. Hu was persistent and asked me again, Yang Yang, do you want to learn the piano? I quickly gathered my thoughts and refused her with a smile, Aunt Hu, I still need to study. I really don't have time to learn the piano. After dinner, I was about to go back to my room to rest when Huyen stopped me. Yang Yang, after the quiz tomorrow, we will choose seats according to our grades. Where do you want to sit? Seeing that I didn't speak, Huyen continued, is the 5th row by the window okay? This was the seat I always sat in when I was studying in my previous life. Huyen looked at me with eager eyes, expecting my response. I looked at him deeply and casually said, whatever. My perfunctory answer made Huyen extremely excited. Until the next day, he watched me bypass him and sit next to Chenling. Luo Yang, Huyen called me in public. He twitched the corners of his mouth and asked me, did you get the wrong seat? No. Huyen stood there awkwardly. It was a long time before he silently sat down. Weren't you the first to choose a seat? Why did you choose here? I couldn't help but complain to Chenling. The seat Chenling chose was really bad. In the first row in the middle, I'm nearsighted. I can't see the blackboard if I sit too far away. She usually doesn't wear glasses. Seeing that I was skeptical, Chenling frankly explained, I don't have extra money, so I didn't get glasses. Oh, I pouted. I thought you were afraid that someone would sit next to you, so you deliberately chose this really bad seat and left it for me. Chenling looked up from the test paper and told me very frankly, you're overthinking. Whether I was overthinking or not, after school at noon, I still dragged Chenling to the glasses store outside the school and forcefully bought her a pair of glasses. I said it nicely. If you can't see the blackboard and your grades regress, who will help me with my studies? Consider this pair of glasses as my tuition for you. Anyway, I was using Huyen's money. He owed me so much. What's wrong with spending a little of his money? Originally, I just wanted to buy a pair of glasses for Chenling, but unexpectedly, I made her cry. When being bullied by Sujiai and the others, Chenling didn't shed a single tear, but when I put the glasses on her, she burst into tears. Chenling kept choking and saying, Luo Yang, I will definitely pay you back when I have money in the future. It was not easy to comfort her. When we returned to the classroom, we were stopped by Huyen in the stairwell. He questioned me, why didn't you choose the seat we agreed on? Who agreed with you? I impatiently asked him, Huyen, did I promise you anything? Huyen immediately fell silent. He looked at me for a long time before speaking again. Yang Yang, why is everything different? Are you also? I smiled and looked back at him. Also what? Unfortunately, Huyen didn't answer me, but the fact that he stopped me in the stairwell reached Sujiai's ears. After class, Sujiai came over in person to warn me, stay away from Huyen. Out of concern, Chenling also advised me, Luo Yang, you'd better stay away from Huyen, try not to have any contact with him. To convince me, she also took the initiative to tell me the reason why she was bullied by Sujiai before. Huyen just asked me a question once, and Sujiai said I was trying to seduce him. Yang Yang, Sujiai is not someone to be trifled with. I'm afraid she'll cause trouble for you. I wished I could stay away from Huyen, but he was like a clingy ghost. He would always suddenly appear beside me at unexpected times. I silently sighed, putting down the exercise book in my hand. I reached out and hugged Chenling, who looked worried, and comforted her. Don't worry, however. Chenling's worry soon came true. 7. Let's talk. Sujiai stopped me in the corridor. I originally wanted to refuse, but seeing the undisguised hatred for me in her eyes, I suddenly changed my mind. Okay, in this life, Sujiai's attitude towards me was so different. Sometimes I also wondered if, like me and Huyen, she had also been reborn. What do you want to talk about? I took 2 steps towards her and asked her. Sujiai didn't speak, when the voices in the stairwell got louder and louder. She turned her head and glanced at me. She said contemptuously, nothing. If you weren't living in the Hua family, you wouldn't even have the right to talk to me. As soon as she finished speaking, she fell straight backwards. Huyen, who was coming upstairs, happened to see the scene of her falling. Luo Yang, why did you push me? Su Jiai cried and questioned me. Her words made the surrounding classmates who didn't know the situation cast blameful glances at me. Huyen frowned and didn't speak. He looked up at me standing in the corridor, and then asked several boys to take Su Jiai to the hospital. When Su Jiai left, she was still crying to Huyen, "Ayen, my leg hurts so much. Will I never be able to dance again in the future?" Huyen comforted her a few words and watched her leave. After everyone had dispersed, Huyen walked up to me. He looked down at me and his first words were, "Go and apologize to Xiaoyi." "Why should I apologize? She fell by herself." Huyen let out a deep sigh. "Xiaoyi studies dance. Are you saying that she used her own leg and her own future to frame you?" "Yang, I know you hate Xiaoyi, but that's all." He suddenly realized something and didn't continue. I sneered and deliberately asked him, "All what?" "Huyen, I just transferred to this school and I don't have any conflict with Su Jiai. Why don't you tell me why I would hate her?" Huyen looked at me in silence. The more he tried his best to hide the fact that he had been reborn, the more I wanted to expose him. "Because you know that I was reborn just like you, right? You know that Su Jiai did a lot of things to hurt me in my previous life. You think I hate her, so I would take revenge on her and push her downstairs, right?" I thought that since I had said so much, he would at least be more honest, but Huyan's lips moved for a long time. And finally he was still denying it. "What you said? I don't understand, but if you do something wrong, you should apologize. Come with me and apologize to Xiaoyi." "Okay." I was so angry that I laughed. "Huyen, you're still the same. Even if you live a new life, you're still a coward who only knows how to deceive himself. He doesn't dare to face the mistakes he made in his previous life, so he also doesn't dare to admit that he has been reborn." My words made Huyan's pupils tremble violently, but soon he turned his head and no longer looked at me. I'm going to see how Xiaoyi is." After saying that, he quickly turned around. I don't know if he was really worried about Su Jiai or just wanted to escape from me as soon as possible, but I couldn't let him go so easily. I took a few steps and caught up with him. "Since you think I pushed her, of course I have to go and see her. By the way, let her think carefully again whether it was really me who pushed her." 8. When Huyen and I arrived at the hospital, Su Jiai's leg had already been put in a cast. She was lying on the hospital bed and started crying as soon as she saw Huyen. "Ayen, the doctor said my leg is seriously injured. I'm so scared." Seeing me enter the door behind Huyen, she turned her head and questioned me again. "Luo Yang, why did you push me? You know I study dance. My legs can't be injured." I listened quietly as she finished speaking and then smiled and asked her, "Su Jiai, are you sure it was me who pushed you downstairs?" At that time, there were only the two of us. "If it wasn't you, who else could it be?" She was emotional and acted very realistically. "I've been studying dance since I was a child. Do you know how much I cherish these legs? You've ruined me. My parents won't let you go, Luo Yang. Just wait to be expelled from school." Huyen patted Su Jiai's back soothingly and turned around to order me again. Yang, apologize." I ignored him. I just looked at Su Jiai and continued, "You think there's no surveillance in the stairwell, so you can slander me, right? Su Jiai, I suggest you find someone to look carefully again. See if there's any surveillance nearby that you didn't notice." Su Jiai's face froze for a moment. I saw the subtle expression of hers. Su Jiai wasn't reborn. Because a reborn Su Jiai couldn't not know that the surveillance on the opposite teaching building could capture that area. I was a bit disappointed. I was about to leave. Huyen originally planned to leave with me, but Su Jiai stopped him and said, "Ayen, my leg hurts so much. Can you stay with me?" Huyen glanced at Su Jiai and then called out to me, Yang, wait for me outside for a while." Only a fool would wait for him. I walked out of the hospital without looking back. Yang. As soon as I got back to school, I was stopped by Chenling behind me. She was out of breath as she handed a USB drive to me. "What's this?" Chenling took several deep breaths before saying, "I heard from my classmates about what happened between you and Su Jiai. There's no surveillance in the corridor to prove your innocence." I searched for a long time and finally found the surveillance on the opposite teaching building, which just happened to capture what happened between you at that time. Su Jiai's father is one of the shareholders of the school. I was afraid they would delete the surveillance, so I rushed to the surveillance room and secretly made a copy of it. Instantly, a warm current welled up in my heart. I affectionately took Chenling's arm and acted coquettishly with her. "Chenling, you're so good to me." Chenling adjusted the glasses on her nose. Even though she tried her best to hide it, I still noticed that the tips of her ears were completely red. She somewhat unnaturally suppressed the corners of her mouth and pretended to be cold, saying, "Hurry back to the classroom, the midterm exam is coming soon, you have to focus on your studies." It's a pity that the surveillance that Chen-Ling went to so much trouble to copy for me wasn't needed. At night, Su Jiai was sneaking around in the corridor looking for the surveillance, and she was caught red-handed by Huiyan and me, who happened to return to school to get something. Before I could say anything, Huiyan had already walked up and asked her, "What are you doing at school alone so late at night?" Su Jiai mumbled for a long time but couldn't come up with a suitable excuse. I couldn't stand to see her embarrassed, so I kindly spoke for her. Of course she's not at ease, so she came back to look for the surveillance. I'd also thoughtfully pointed to the teaching building opposite for her. "The surveillance you're looking for is over there. And it can just capture this area. But it may be too late for you to delete the surveillance now because I've already made a copy." "Su Jiai, I'm asking you again, did I push you?" Su Jiai bit her lip. She looked at Huiyan but found that Huiyan was staring at her casted leg at the moment. "With a cast on, you can still come to school alone." Su Jiai was so anxious that she was about to cry. She explained incoherently and finally had to admit, "Ayan, I'm sorry. I was so scared at that time that I thought it was Luo Yan who pushed me. Actually, I accidentally fell down by myself." Huiyan shook her off with a cold face and left straight away. The next day, under my threat, Su Jiai admitted in front of the whole class that she had fallen down by herself. In the second semester of our sophomore year of high school, Chen-Ling and I applied to live on campus together. She did it because her aunt had to leave the local area due to work and was worried about leaving her alone at home. I did it because I was fed up with Huiyan's false attentions. In this life, I don't have a deep relationship with the Hui couple, and they just asked a few questions before agreeing. Only Huiyan strongly opposed it. He asked me, "Why do you have to live on campus?" while packing my things. I replied to him impatiently and perfunctorily, "It's convenient to live on campus. And I can study better." Huiyan didn't say anything more, and it was quiet behind me for a long time. Just when I thought Huiyan had left, I heard him suddenly say, "You want to stay away from me, right, Yang? I really thought we could start over. But you won't forgive me, you still hate me." I turned around and looked at Huiyan, and deliberately asked him leisurely, "Why should I hate you?" "Huiyan, you're so strange. You said I hated Su Jiai before, and now you say I hate you." Huiyan looked at me for a long time. He slowly closed his eyes, then opened them again, and twitched the corners of his mouth. "As expected, you still hate me, Yang. Can you forget the things in the previous life? Can't we start over?" I looked at him disdainfully and sneered, "Aren't you pretending anymore?" But Huiyan seemed not to see my obvious disgust. He continued talking to himself, Yang, since God has given us a chance to start over, let's forget the things in the previous life and start over." Okay, Huiyan is really extremely despicable. I suppressed the anger in my heart and looked at him disdainfully. "Huiyan, in the previous life, the one who was hurt wasn't you, and the one who lost everything wasn't you either. So you can easily say that we should forget those hurts and start over. But why should I forget, and why should I start over with you? The person who inflicted the harm can easily say sorry." And with just these three simple words, he attempts to erase all the harm the victim has suffered and obtain forgiveness. He really has high hopes, but Huiyan still didn't give up. Yang, I'll make up for everything you lost in the previous life in this life. Okay, before my engagement in the previous life, you said that you thought you were the happiest little girl in the world, as long as you're willing to let go. In this life, you can be good friends with Su Jiai just like at that time, and we won't be siblings anymore. Mom and Dad won't object to us being together. We'll get married after graduating from university. Mom and Dad will love you as their own daughter, and we can live a happy life together. Yang, you can still be the happiest little girl in the world. Let's start over." Okay, I refused him with a cold face. "No, I can't be friends with Su Jiai in this life, and I definitely won't marry you." "Huiyan, when will you stop deceiving yourself?" "I'm not deceiving myself," Huiyan stubbornly retorted me. Yang, nothing is impossible." There was a crazy glint in his eyes. Huiyan is a paranoid and unreasonable madman. I don't know what methods he used. Soon, Su Jiai also started living on campus and was even assigned to the dormitory where Chen-Ling and I were. She took the initiative to show her friendliness to us several times, but both Chen-Ling and I ignored her. Until the day before the final exam, Chen-Ling and I were reviewing in the dormitory when Su Jiai suddenly rushed in and shouted at us with tears in her eyes, "Why do you guys hate me so much? I've already apologized to you, and I've been trying to please you. What exactly do you want? It's my birthday today. But I have to endure your cold looks in this lousy dormitory. I begged my mom to pick me up, but Huyen wouldn't let her. He forced me to be friends with you. I don't want to be friends with you at all. I hate you so much. Since I was sensible, my mom has asked me to please Huyen and make him like me so that I can marry him in the future. I've been trying very hard to do these things, but why did all my previous efforts go to waste as soon as you, Luo Yang, appeared? Chenling and I looked at each other. Watching Sujiai sitting on the ground crying hysterically, Chenling pulled me and we left the dormitory. She asked me, "Do you think I'm too cold towards Sujiai?" I shook my head and told her, "She bullied you. It's your right to treat her however you want. No one can ask you to forgive someone who has hurt you." In my opinion, Chenling is kind enough, at least when she left the dormitory. She threw a pack of tissues to Sujiai who was crying. After that day, Sujiai became even weirder. She started pestering Chenling and me by any means. She applied to the teacher to change her seat and sat behind me. Sujiai created an illusion that we were good friends. She said, "I've made up my mind. I want to study hard with you guys in the future. And I hope I can even go to the same university as you." So she often asked me to teach her how to solve problems. Yang, please teach me. Sujiai's tone made me vaguely think of things in the previous life. At that time, I was her best friend. Every time Sujiai acted coquettishly with me, she used the same tone. Chenling secretly asked me, "Has Sujiai really changed for the better?" "Maybe." I looked at Sujiai who was walking towards us not far away. I softly said to Chenling, "But I still think it's impossible for a person's personality to change suddenly. No one suddenly becomes bad, and no one suddenly becomes good either." 10. Such days continued until the end of the college entrance examination. Just as Huyen said, he was really trying his best to make up for what he owed me in the previous life and was gradually retrieving the things I had lost before. Thanks to Sujiai's one-sided efforts, my relationship with her did ease up a bit. The Hua couple also treated me better and better. After the college entrance examination, they even specially picked me up and took me back to the Hua family and said they would throw an 18th birthday party for me. Sujiai, who came to the Hua family to find me, learned about this. She volunteered, "I also want to contribute to Yang birthday party." Huyen smiled and nodded in agreement. "Okay, you're Yang's best friend. If you're willing to help, Yang will definitely be very happy." After saying that, Huyen looked at me meaningfully. Yang, your relationship with Xiaoyi is getting better and better now. As expected, nothing is impossible. I knew what he meant by that, but I just smiled and didn't refute him. On my birthday, Huyen gave me a wristwatch worth more than 3 million yuan. I didn't refuse and happily accepted it. After all, my fostering relationship with the Hua family would only last until I turned 18. There would be many places where I needed money after leaving the Hua family. Since he was willing to give it, I had no reason not to accept it. The Hua family had great influence in Beijing, even for my birthday party. Many celebrities and influential people came. There were also some classmates from my class who were invited by Sujiai. I only invited Chenling. This birthday party was so grand and magnificent that Chenling and I felt a bit out of place. We hid in the backyard together. "What are your plans for the summer vacation?" Chenling took small sips of juice and softly replied to me, "I plan to work during the summer vacation and at least earn enough money for my freshman year's living expenses." I rubbed the watch on my wrist and asked her to take me with her. Before I could finish speaking, I suddenly heard a scream coming from inside the villa. When Chenling and I rushed to the second floor, Huyen and Sujiai had already dressed themselves, but the ambiguous marks on their bodies and the messy bed in the bedroom made it easy to guess what had happened between them in this room before. Uncle Hua slapped Huyen in the face in front of all the guests. "Doing such a thing. Don't you have any shame?" Sujiai stood in front of Huyen and cried to plead for him. "Uncle, don't blame Huyen." For a moment, the Hua family was in chaos. Huyen saw me standing behind the crowd. He tried to come over and explain something to me, but was stopped by Sujiai's parents. "Huyen, you can't leave. You have to give us an explanation." This party ended prematurely in the end. At around 10 o'clock at night, the people from the Su family left the Hua family. Presumably, the two families had already reached an agreement on the solution. They all had smiles on their faces when they left and spoke politely. When I was going back to my room to sleep and passed by the study, I happened to hear Uncle Hua say to Aunt Hua, "Let them get engaged in a few days. You start preparing for the engagement banquet in advance." At night, Huyen knocked on my door. I pretended not to hear. The next day, when I was about to go out to work during the summer vacation with Chenling, I was stopped by Huyen. He explained to me, "I don't know what happened yesterday. I was drugged." "Oh, I smiled and looked at him. Were you drugged by someone else, or did you drug yourself? Huiyan's eyes showed a look of pain. How could I drug myself? Why not? I said sarcastically. Huiyan, didn't you drug yourself in the previous life, ruin my innocence, and then make me take the blame, in the previous life? I always thought that it was Sujiai who drugged Huiyan. It wasn't until I was on the verge of death that Huiyan confessed to me. He said, Yang, what could I do? I like you. I actually like my own sister. I thought that if I did this, Mom and Dad would agree to let me marry you, but I didn't expect my dad to be so angry that he died because of it. Yang, if it wasn't for liking you, I wouldn't have extremely annoyed my father, and I wouldn't have lived my whole life in guilt, not even having the courage to see my mother. Yang, you're also at fault, so you should stay with me in hell. As he said that, he suddenly hugged me tightly. Yang, don't leave me. I was wrong. I really was wrong. I shouldn't have bullied you. In the previous life, Huiyan deceived others and also deceived himself. He could even shift all the blame for drugging onto me to numb himself and make himself feel better. He has always been a coward who deceives himself, whether in the previous life or this life. I'm sorry. Huiyan asked me to forgive him in a hoarse voice. I'm sorry for you in the previous life. Yang, I really know I was wrong. Can you forgive me? But I really didn't drug myself this time. Please believe me. He tried to reach out and pull me, but I dodged as if I thought he was dirty. When I turned around and walked out, I heard Huiyan still saying, Yang, I'll cancel the engagement with Sujiai, wait for me. I left straight away without looking back. 11 When the university was about to start, Chen-Ling came to the Hua family's residence to help me move my belongings. The couple of the Hua family returned to their previous cold attitude towards me. When they heard that I was going to move out, they just casually said a few polite words. Everything was going smoothly at first, but unexpectedly, Huiyan came home early. He stopped me and asked, my parents agreed to let you move out. When he saw me nodding, he still couldn't believe it. It's impossible. My parents said they like you very much and have always treated you as their own daughter. Wait, I'll go and ask them. While he was going into the house, Chen-Ling and I had already left with our things. After leaving the residential compound, we ran into Sujiai. Sujiai no longer greeted us as she used to, nor did she deliberately try to please Chen-Ling and me. I thought that originally she should have no intention of paying attention to us, but for some reason, she suddenly turned back and called out to me, Luo Yang, didn't you really think that I wanted to be friends with you before? To be honest, if it weren't for Huiyan's request, I wouldn't even give you a second glance, probably because she and Huiyan were already engaged. Sujiai even leaned close to my ear and told me her secret. Actually, it was me who drugged Huiyan on your birthday. I glanced at Sujiai and truly thought from the bottom of my heart that she and Huiyan were a perfect match. They could even come up with such a disgusting method together. I will marry him in the future and become a member of the Hua family. Luo Yang. Actually, I don't like Huiyan that much either, but I have no choice. My parents really want to form an alliance with the Hua family through marriage. Sujiai told me in a boastful tone about how many benefits there would be in marrying Huiyan, but I remained indifferent throughout. No one knows better than me how painful it is to marry someone like Huiyan. After parting with Sujiai, Chen-Ling suddenly said, Yang, you're right. No one suddenly becomes bad, and no one suddenly becomes good either. She sighed and said, fortunately. We didn't fall for it. 12. 4 years later, after graduating from undergraduate studies, neither Chen-Ling nor I chose to pursue a master's degree. We started our own business. On my 18th birthday, Huiyan gave me an expensive wristwatch for children in the Welfare Institute. Being adopted is a stroke of luck, thanks to our good luck in recent years and some memories from my previous life. Chen-Ling and I have managed our company very successfully. I met Huiyan again at the bidding site. Over the years, I have also heard more or less gossip about him and Sujiai. They got divorced not long after they got married. At first, Sujiai didn't agree to the divorce, but Huiyan always had various means. She was terribly tortured and finally had to compromise. After the bidding ended, Huiyan caught up with me in the parking lot. He was at a loss and after pondering for a long time, he only said one sentence. I'm sorry, Yang. I glanced at him. If you really feel sorry for me, then withdraw from the bidding. Huiyan paused for a moment and actually agreed. Okay, even so, I wouldn't take it seriously. Huiyan is extremely selfish. His sorry has always been just words. When it comes to matters related to interests, Huiyan is more clear-headed than anyone else. I briefly told Chen-Ling about today's bidding situation on the phone. Chen-Ling sighed and said, since the Hua family is also participating, do we have no hope? I said. That's not necessarily the case.